Well, I recently had need to move a spreadsheet, import a spreadsheet from Excel into Google Spreadsheets or Google Docs, and to my dismay, discovered that the Google Docs doesn't support VBA, but it does support JavaScript. So I had to port the macro that was in this worksheet into JavaScript it would work in Google Docs. And I just wanted to show you kind of how that works. This will be pretty brief, but at least I'll give you some indication of what Google Spreadsheets is capable of. So as I say, it does not, Google Docs does not support VBA, but it has JavaScript, and then they have these extensions they built into it to let you address and make use of values that are in a sheet and functions that are available in Excel or in Google Spreadsheets and read and write from a cell and that sort of thing. So I'll just kind of walk you through some of this so you see how it works. The main thing is there is a built-in editor in Google Docs for editing these scripts, and to open it up, you open a spreadsheet in Google Docs, and then you go to the Tools menu or Tools tab, and the script editor, and it opens up a little JavaScript editor. You can type in there and then access your functions that you type in that editor from within the sheet itself. As I did this, I used help quite a bit. So to get help on these topics, you have to open the script editor first and then go to the help menu there. And there's some examples, so you can look at examples, and then there's a list of all the functions that are available within the JavaScript that's been amended to work with the spreadsheet. So all the little functions for ranges and all that stuff that you are used to using in VBA. There's a list of those there that you can use to access spreadsheet values and that sort of thing. So be sure to open up that help menu if you're new to this and look at all these spreadsheet functions that have been added in to JavaScript to make it work. And then as you need help, you'll be going back there quite a bit to see how you do various things. And again, those examples that are available in there are quite helpful. So here's the first script I wrote. I wanted to just see if I could write a Runge-Kutta script. So I wanted to build a function that would do a single fourth order Runge-Kutta step. And so this is the function that does that. I wrote a function called rkstep. I think all of this should be familiar with you if you've written programs in any language. A couple of things to point out is that we use these curly brackets to enclose all the statements within this function. All the statements end with a semicolon, which is something that you wouldn't do if you're in VBA. I declared the variables here, which I don't often do in VBA, and then you use a return statement to send the value back. All right, so all that's pretty straightforward. You just got to get used to the syntax differences between VBA and JavaScript, but it shouldn't take you too much time to port something over. Um, the one thing I'll point out here is I did call a function here. The function defines the differential equation that you were using to solve this differential using this fourth order Runge-Kutta. And so that function looked like this, f of t and y. So the function, the equation I was solving was dy dt is 2yt. So this has to define the 2 times y times t, and it does that. And notice I have this with math statement to make the math library available. So you'll probably need that, especially for some of the functions. If you want to know what's built into this math library, again, the help in the script editor will give you a list of functions that are available. So basically, you just paste those two functions into the VBA editor, and then you can go to the spreadsheet and call that function the rkstep function, and it'll do a single Runge-Kutta step, and you call it a bunch of times, and you could solve a differential equation that way. It's pretty straightforward. I'll mention at the end, but I might as well say it now. The one drawback, in my opinion, is that it's really slow doing this. So you can actually watch if you do say 10 run a cut of steps, you can actually watch the value showing up as the calculations come. So hopefully the performance will be improved in the future. But for now, it's slow, but at least it works. So as I say here, to run it, you just call the function from within a cell in a spreadsheet as if it was built in. Nothing special about that. All right, one more thing I'll add. I pasted in here one of the sample um, scripts that's available in the help on within Google Docs, and it's just to give you a flavor of how some of this works. So I'll kind of walk through the steps here. So this first command gets the active spreadsheet and sets it to be the variable SS. So now the active spreadsheet is SS. And then we want to pull out a single sheet. So I set a variable sheet to be uh, the first tabbed sheet within that workbook SS. And then I use this input box to ask the user to enter a number, and then it gives them a little form. They enter the number in the text box, and then the my value variable becomes the value the user enters in that input box. Then we set cell A1 to be this string, number entered, right? So this set value command sets the cell A1 to be this string, number entered. Then what we want to do is take the value the user entered and write that value into cell B1. And so to do that, you define a variable. I called it B1 range, or they called it B1 range, and it's supposed to be set to the range B1. And then we set that variable, which is that range, to be the value that the user entered, the my value variable. All right, so this sequence of commands asks a user to enter a number, takes that number, writes it into cell B1, and then writes the string number entered into cell A1. Then they define a new variable, value to show, and it's the value in B1 range, or of cell B1, plus 1, so it adds 1 to that value, and then it displays it in a little pop-up window, which is using the message box command that you've seen in VBA. So, there's some similarity to VBA here, but it is enough different that it takes a little getting used to. But once you get the hang of it, pretty much anything you can do in VBA, you can do that or something similar in a spreadsheet in Google Docs. All right, so it takes a little work and a little practice, but once you get the hang of it, it's pretty straightforward. As I say, the only downside is, in my experience, these things are pretty slow. So don't expect any high performance computation using this approach. And I'll just add, since this was pretty brief, if you have any questions, just feel free to send me an email directly. Comments in YouTube are not the best way to get feedback on these kind of things. So just send me an email directly and I can try to help. But I'm no expert in these JavaScript scripts for Google Docs. I've just done a few of them. All right, that's it.